You're watching Winnipeg's Best Kept Secret, brought to you by Winnipeg Public Wi-Fi.
All right, folks, welcome back to another edition of In the Pipes with Pollock. Let's go, baby. Our next guest grew up in the Greater Toronto area. He's a superstar on the streets, but a leaf in the sheets. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. John Tavares.
How you doing?
Hey, big guy, what's going on? Get in here. Corwin, love the drums, love the drums.
You had to get me on the sheets again, eh?
Yeah.
I've heard that a few times.
Sorry,
No,
man.
it's good,
I'm
good.
sorry. What do you think of my pipes?
Not bad.
They're not bad, eh?
Setup here, yeah.
You ever seen a set of pipes like this before?
No,
or what?
definitely not.
No?
Definitely not. That's top quality right there.
Oh, yeah. Nice $30, I think. So,
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy to think that, like, you were almost not a professional hockey player because you were a pretty good lacrosse player. Was there ever a point where you were like, I don't know about this hockey thing, I want to pursue lacrosse?
Yeah, I think obviously my uncle was a big influence in my life. So being the great lacrosse player he is, I always looked up to him and it'd be pretty cool to be like him. But hockey was kind of what I really fell in love first. And I think that's just truly where my passion was. And I think for a long time, like most kids, you think you kind of do it all. You can play both sports at the same time, try to be a dual athlete, but you quickly learn that's not the way it works. So.
I'm going to ask a bit more of a pop culture question here. We see Drake, he represented the Raptors admirably the past year especially. So if there's an ambassador for the Leafs, who are you picking?
Gord Downey would have been a perfect, I think would have been right up there, would have been perfect, right? Tragically hip and many great Canadian hits, a lot about Toronto, so was a legend. So he would have been my pick for sure.
Nice. First of all, nice to see we're both not wearing socks here, hey?
Yeah.
Did you also have weird ankles? I got weird ankles. I don't know, they poke
I don't
on
know.
a lot.
Probably.
Anyways, nice loafers. So, historically, the Montreal Canadiens have been the Leafs' biggest rival, right? But those Bruins have been up to no good in Toronto. So, if you had to say, which team do you kind of despise more right now?
Certainly, Boston is kind of the team that you kind of have some frustration with. But I can only imagine what a playoff series would be like against the Habs.
Do you hate that Marchie guy or what?
Yeah, I've played with him a few times, and you realize why guys love him and why he's a great player. And then certainly when you play against him, you certainly build up that hate as well and that bitterness and that competitiveness. But he's turned himself into. Well, he always was a great player.
I think he's the only NHL player who has a bigger nose than me.
Yeah,
that's what people tell me. I got pretty long in the middle of my face.
I'm up there too. I can't say that I got the most petite nose I've seen, but
JT, come on.
Yeah.
You know? If worse comes to worse, just get one of the boys to fire a clapper at your face. And then you
I
can
don't know
just
what's
get a nose
worse,
job.
your nose or your tie. I thought the tie game would be a little better for today, but
That's what you say,
a
eh?
little
Chirp
you
me?
went a little old school.
Today's show is brought to you by the good people from Skullet Skull Tape. Every single employee at Skullet Skull Tape has a skullet. It's sick flow. I personally think that some of them should start going with rat tails, but did you like rat tails, man? I thought rat tails were sweet.
They were big in the lacrosse game.
Oh, really?
Summer lacrosse, you saw a lot of rat tails out of the buckies. So
Rat tails are sick bucky flow. Let me tell you. Today we're gonna take a question from our man on the drums. He goes by the name Corwin McCallum.
Thank you. So, John, you had a pretty big moment earlier in the last season when a puck came onto the bench and everybody flinched but you.
yeah.
Do you remember that? Do you know what was going through your head?
I do remember that. I think a bunch of the boys told me the next day it was getting a lot of attention on social media. So I don't know. I mean, I kind of moved at the end, but I don't know. I guess I just was off in space somewhere. So it was locked into whatever I was thinking about and didn't even really see it coming.
Can I try and make you flinch?
Sure.
Well, I don't think I even flinched there. I kind of just wore that one.
He's a good hockey player. No flamingoing.
Listen, Mr. Tavares, you've been an absolute pleasure to have on the show. You shredded my tie. We discussed long noses. And I'm very glad that you chose hockey instead of lacrosse. I want to thank you for coming on In the Pipes with Pollock.
Thank you.
You're an absolute
Thank you.
gem. And it's why we love him. It's why we love him. Corwin, take it away with your one drum.
I got rid of it.
Woo! All right, folks. See you next time on another edition of In the Pipes with Pollock.
Today's episode of In the Pipes with Pollock is brought to you by Skullet Skull Tape. Every single employee at Skullet Skull Tape has a Skullet.